All right, get ready to dive into some Week 15 NFL predictions. We've got a ton of articles here with expert opinions, bold predictions, and even some interesting betting nuggets. It's going to be wild.
It does always feel like the NFL has, its own way of defying expectations.
That's what makes it so much fun, right? So let's kick things off in Cleveland, where we've got the Chiefs going up against the Browns. And right away, one thing really stands out from all these predictions. Mahomes is facing a level of pressure like we haven't really seen before.
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes is known for escaping pressure and making those incredible plays, but 35 sacks, that's a lot for any quarterback,
Yeah.
especially with the Chiefs' offensive line situation.
And, he's now going up against Myles Garrett, who I'm sure is ready to feast.
Definitely Garrett will be a huge factor in this game.
And speaking of predictions, one bold prediction even suggests that Denzel Ward is going to hold DeAndre Hopkins to just one reception this game. Can you imagine the fantasy football fallout?
Oh man, that would be rough for anyone who drafted Hopkins.
It would. And of course, we got to talk about what this game means for the playoffs, right? A win for the Chiefs basically locks up that AFC top seed for them. But if they lose, well, things could get interesting in those standings.
A loss would drop their chances of getting that top spot pretty significantly.
For sure. And here's a little nugget for those who like to bet. The Chiefs are currently on a 7-game losing streak against the spread.
Wow. 7!
Yep. And get this. No team with a 6-game ATS losing streak has ever gone on to win the Super Bowl in the same season. I think this is the week they break that curse.
It's hard to say. The Chiefs are a talented team, but something's clearly not clicking when it comes to covering the spread. Maybe this is the week they finally turn things around.
We'll see. So we've got the Chiefs as 4.5-point favorites, over-under at 43.5. The experts are a bit divided on this one, with Cowler and Moody predicting a Chiefs win. But Walder actually thinks the Browns pull off the upset.
That would definitely shake things up.
For sure. All right, let's move on to Washington facing off against New Orleans. This one has a kind of a unique twist. Marshawn Lattimore could potentially be playing for the Commanders against the Saints, the team that traded him.
Oh, wow. A little bit of a revenge game, maybe? But will he even play? He's been out with that injury, so who knows?
Yeah, that's the big question mark, right? And on top of that, the Saints are dealing with their own quarterback drama.
Yeah.
Derek Carr is battling a concussion and a hand injury, so we might see either Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler starting for them.
That definitely throws a wrench into things. It'll be interesting to see who they go with and how they perform.
Absolutely. And hey, speaking of the Saints, we can't forget about Alvin Kamara. He's only 62 yards away from hitting that 1,000-yard rushing mark for the season.
It would be quite a story if he reaches that milestone against his former team.
It would. Okay, and get this. One of these predictions actually says there's going to be a kickoff return for a touchdown in this game. Statistically, it's not as crazy as it sounds. Both these teams have been terrible at preventing big returns this season.
Wow, now that would be exciting.
Wouldn't it? All right, so in terms of playoff implications, the Commanders are sitting pretty with an 85% chance of making the postseason. A win pretty much guarantees it, but a loss could make things a little dicey.
Yeah, they don't want to risk falling too far behind in the race.
And for those who like to bet, here's an interesting stat. The Saints are 0-6, both outright and against the spread, when facing teams with winning records this season.
So, not a great track record against strong opponents.
Nope. So we've got Washington as 7.5-point favorites. The over-under is set at 43.5. The experts are pretty much in agreement that the Commanders will win this one. But by how much? Well, that's still up in the air.
Yeah, those point spreads can be tricky.
Okay, up next we have a battle of styles brewing as the Bengals head to Tennessee to take on the Titans. It's Joe Burrow's high-powered offense versus that traditionally tough Titans defense.
Yeah, the Titans defense has always been known for being physical and disruptive.
Yep.
It's going to be a real test for Burrow and that Bengals offense.
And then there's the matchup of Jamar Chase going up against the Titans' top-ranked pass defense. Something's got to give there, right?
It's a classic battle of strength versus strength. Chase has been one of the most dynamic receivers in the league, but the Titans' secondary is no pushover. I can't wait to see how that matchup plays out.
And let's not forget, the Titans are in a bit of a historical rut right now. 3 straight 10-plus loss seasons. They haven't seen that since their Houston Oilers days back in the 80s.
It's a tough streak to break for sure. The NFL is a league of parity, so stringing together that many losing seasons is no easy feat. But hey, maybe this is the year they turn things around. Stranger things have happened, right?
You never know. Okay, get ready for this bold prediction. The Bengals are projected to score over 40 points in this game.
Wow. Over 40? That's a lot of points against any NFL defense, let alone one that's been as good as the Titans.
I know, right?
Hmm.
But when you look at the Titans' recent performances, they've been struggling on both sides of the ball, so it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility.
True. They haven't been playing their best football lately. Maybe the Bengals can capitalize on that.
Exactly. And for the Bengals, every game is a must-win if they want to keep those playoff hopes alive.
They're definitely in a tough spot, but mathematically, they're still in the hunt. A win here would be huge for them.
It would. So the Bengals are 5-point favorites. The over-under is 46.5. The experts are pretty much all in agreement that the Bengals will win this one. But, as always, anything can happen on game day.
Absolutely. That's why we love the NFL. You just never know what's going to happen.
All right, let's shift gears and head over to Baltimore, where the Ravens are hosting the New York Giants. If you're a fantasy football fan, this game has the potential to be a real points bonanza.
Yeah, this one could be a shootout, especially with Derrick Henry potentially having a field day against the Giants' run defense.
Right. I mean, the Giants' run defense has been historically bad this season.
They've been struggling mightily to stop the run, so Henry could be in for a big game. But on the flip side, the Giants might have an opportunity to exploit the Ravens' weakness, which is their pass defense.
That's a good point. The Ravens have been susceptible to giving up big plays through the air. So the Giants, if they can get their passing game going, might be able to keep pace with the Ravens' offense.
It's definitely something to keep an eye on. The Giants have been trying to find their identity on offense, and this could be the game where they finally break out.
And let's not forget about Lamar Jackson. He's quietly putting up some impressive numbers this season. He's second only to Joe Burrow in passing touchdowns, which is pretty remarkable considering all the talk about his rushing ability.
He's been playing with a lot of confidence and making plays with both his arm and his legs. The Giants' defense will have its hands full trying to contain him.
All right, here's a bold prediction that caught my eye. Tyrone Tracy Jr. is projected to rush for under 30 yards in this game.
Really? Under 30? That seems low, especially considering the Giants' run defense.
I know, right? But this prediction highlights the strength of the Ravens' run defense. They've been one of the best in the league at stopping opposing running backs.
That's true. The Ravens' defense has been playing really well overall, so it wouldn't be surprising to see them shut down Tracy Jr.
And the AFC North race is heating up. The Ravens have a real shot at winning the division, but a loss here would be a major setback.
It's a crucial game for them in terms of playoff positioning. A win keeps them in the driver's seat, but a loss would make their path to the playoffs much more challenging.
So the Ravens are massive 16-point favorites in this one. The over-under is set at 42.5. The experts are overwhelmingly predicting a Ravens victory, but could we see an upset brewing?
It's always possible, but the Ravens are looking like a dominant force right now. It would take a Herculean effort from the Giants to pull off a win in this one.
Okay, let's move on to a game where the underdog is actually favored. The Dallas Cowboys are heading to Carolina to face the Panthers, who are favored for the first time in 34 games.
Wow, 34 games. That's quite a streak. It really speaks to the Panthers' recent struggles.
It does, but it also highlights the Cowboys' recent struggles. They're coming off a tough loss last week and are missing some key players, like Dak Prescott and Zach Martin. So maybe the odds makers are seeing something in the Panthers that makes them believe they can pull off the upset.
They have been playing well lately, even in their losses. They seem to have found an identity on both sides of the ball. Could this be their turning point?
It's definitely possible, and this game could be a real high-scoring affair. Both teams have struggled against the run this season, so expect to see a lot of carries and a lot of points on the scoreboard.
It could be a fantasy football feast for running backs.
All right, here's a bold prediction that focuses on the Panthers' defense. DJ Wanham is projected to get a sack in this game. He's been on a tear lately, and the Cowboys' offensive line, without Zach Martin, might have trouble containing him.
If Wanham can disrupt the Cowboys' passing game, it could be a long day for Dallas.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the draft implications of this game. A loss for the Panthers would actually increase their chances of landing the #1 pick in the upcoming draft.
Sometimes losing has its benefits, especially when it comes to the draft.
For sure. So the Panthers are 3-point favorites with an over-under of 43.5. The experts are divided on this one, with some predicting a Panthers victory and others leaning towards the Cowboys. It's a tough one to call.
On the one hand, you have the Panthers, who are playing at home and are the favorites. But on the other hand, you have the Cowboys, who are desperate to get back on track. It should be a close game.
Next up, we've got two teams desperately looking for a turnaround as the New York Jets travel to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. For the Jets, the big question is whether Aaron Rodgers can build on his strong performance from last week.
He looked like his old self last week, making plays and leading the offense effectively. But the Jaguars present a unique challenge for him.
How so?
Well, the Jaguars play a lot of man-to-man coverage, and that's been Rodgers' kryptonite this season.
Ah, I see. So it'll be interesting to see if he can adjust his game and overcome that challenge.
Exactly. And for the Jaguars, all eyes are on Mac Jones, who has been struggling mightily. Can he turn things around against a tough Jets defense?
He's certainly going to need to step up his game if the Jaguars want to have any chance of winning this one.
Absolutely. He's been throwing a lot of interceptions lately and hasn't been able to generate much offense. The Jets' defense has been playing well, so they'll be looking to capitalize on his mistakes.
And to add to the Jaguars' woes, their defense is on pace to be one of the worst in franchise history. They've been giving up a ton of yards and points.
It's tough to win games in the NFL when your defense is struggling like that.
For sure. But despite all that, one bold prediction sees Jaguars receiver Brian Thomas Jr. having a breakout game with over 100 receiving yards.
Wow, that would be quite a feat. Considering the Jets have a talented secondary, even without Sauce Gardner, it would take a special performance from Thomas Jr. to make that happen.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And let's not forget about the draft implications for both of these teams. They're both currently in position to land a top 5 pick in the upcoming draft, which could be a silver lining in an otherwise disappointing season.
It's a delicate balance for teams in that position. You want to try to win games, but you also want to position yourself for the best possible draft pick.
Right. So the Jets are 3.5-point favorites in this one. The over-under is set at 43.5. The experts seem to be leaning towards a Jets victory, but it's not a slam dunk. The Jaguars are capable of pulling off an upset, especially if they can get their offense going.
It'll be interesting to see which team steps up and makes the plays they need to win.
All right, for our next matchup, we're heading down south for a game between the Miami Dolphins and the Houston Texans. This one is all about the turnover battle.
Absolutely. The Texans excel at creating turnovers, especially interceptions. But Tua Tagovailoa has been incredibly careful with the ball this season.
He's been playing with a lot of poise and making smart decisions. It'll be interesting to see if he can keep that up against a ball-hawking Texans defense.
The Texans' defense is always lurking, ready to pounce on any mistake. So Tua will need to be at his best to avoid giving them any easy opportunities.
And strategically, this game could come down to how well Texans QB C.J. Stroud handles those split safety coverages.
That's a good point. He's struggled against that look this season, and it's something the Dolphins specialize in. If they can disguise their coverages and confuse Stroud, they could have a field day.
For sure. And let's not forget about Tua's recent hot streak. He's completed over 70% of his passes in 7 straight games, which is a Dolphins franchise record. Is he entering that elite quarterback territory?
He's certainly playing at an elite level right now. He's making accurate throws, reading defenses well, and avoiding those costly mistakes. If he can keep this up, he'll be in the MVP conversation.
All right, here's a bold prediction that targets a tight end. Dalton Schultz is projected to score a touchdown for the 2nd week in a row.
He's been a reliable target for Tua in the red zone, and the Texans' defense has been vulnerable to tight ends this season, so it's definitely a possibility.
And the playoff implications are huge for both teams. The Dolphins need a win to keep their playoff hopes alive, and the Texans have a chance to clinch the AFC South title.
High stakes for both teams. It's going to be a tense matchup.
The Texans are surprisingly 3-point favorites in this one. The over-under is set at 46.5. The experts are split on this one, so it could be a real nail-biter.
It's a game that could go either way. Both teams have their strengths and weaknesses, and it'll be interesting to see which team can exploit the other's vulnerabilities.
Next up, we've got two teams battling for playoff positioning as the Indianapolis Colts travel to Denver to take on the Broncos. This game has huge implications for both teams.
Absolutely. The Colts and Broncos are both fighting for that final wild card spot in the AFC. The winner of this game will be in a much better position to make the playoffs.
The Colts have been struggling lately, but they have the 2nd easiest remaining schedule in the NFL. So there's still time for them to turn things around and make a run for the playoffs.
It's not over for them yet, but they need to start stringing together some wins, and this would be a great place to start.
For sure. And the key matchup in this one is the Broncos' league-leading sack attack against Anthony Richardson, who's known for his big playability, but also for his tendency to hold onto the ball a bit too long.
That's going to be a fascinating battle to watch. Richardson is a dynamic player with a lot of upside, but he can be prone to making mistakes under pressure.
Exactly. The Broncos' defense will be looking to rattle him and force him into some costly turnovers. But on the other side, one bold prediction sees Colts edge rusher Laiatu Latu recording a sack in this game.
He's been quietly improving throughout the season, and the Broncos' offensive line has shown some vulnerability at times. So it wouldn't be surprising to see Latu have a big game.
And the playoff implications are huge, right? A win for the Broncos would boost their playoff chances significantly, while a loss would put them in a much more precarious position. For the Colts, a win is crucial if they want to stay alive in the race.
It's a must-win game for both teams.
The Broncos are 4-point favorites with an over-under of 43.5. The experts are leaning towards a Broncos victory, but the Colts could definitely pull off an upset if they can protect Richardson and limit the Broncos' pass rush.
It's going to be a close, hard-fought game between two teams that are desperate for a win.
All right, get ready for a potential Super Bowl preview. The Buffalo Bills are traveling to Detroit to take on the Lions. This one features two of the most explosive offenses in the league.
This one's going to be a shootout. I can't wait to see Josh Allen and Jared Goff go head-to-head.
Right. It's going to be a battle of the quarterbacks. But the big question for the Bills is whether their defense can bounce back from last week's disastrous performance against the Rams, where they gave up 44 points.
They looked completely out of sorts in that game, and now they're facing the highest-scoring offense in the league. It's a tall order for any defense.
It is, but the Bills' offense is on an absolute tear. They've scored 30 or more points in 7 straight games, which is a franchise record.
Josh Allen is playing at an MVP level, and Stephon Diggs is as dangerous as any receiver in the league. The Lions' defense will have its hands full trying to contain them.
And the Lions, well, they're trying to stay focused amidst all the Super Bowl hype surrounding this game. They've already clinched a playoff spot, so they're playing with a certain level of freedom and confidence right now.
They've earned the right to be considered contenders. They're a well-coached team, and they're playing with a swagger that's contagious.
And here's a bold prediction that might make some Bills fans nervous. The Lions are projected to block a punt in this game.
They've been bringing a lot of pressure on special teams this season, and the Bills have shown some vulnerability in that area, so it's not out of the realm of possibility.
It would definitely be a game-changing play, and the playoff implications are huge for both teams. The Lions have a chance to solidify their grip on the NFC's #1 seed, and the Bills are looking to improve their seeding in the AFC.
Every game counts down the stretch, especially when it comes to playoff seeding.
So the Lions are 2.5-point favorites with an over-under of 54.5. The experts are split on this one, with some predicting a Lions win and others leaning towards the Bills. It's a coin flip.
Both teams are incredibly talented and capable of winning. It should be an instant classic.
Next up, we've got a Pennsylvania showdown as the Pittsburgh Steelers travel to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. This one's all about the trenches.
A classic matchup of two physical teams that love to run the ball and play tough defense.
Right. We've got the Steelers' top 5 run defense going up against Saquon Barkley, who's leading the league in rushing. And then on the other side, we have the Steelers' young offensive line facing the Eagles' fearsome defensive line.
It's strength versus strength on both sides of the ball. The trenches will definitely be the key to this game. Whoever wins the battle up front will likely win the game.
And speaking of history, the Steelers haven't won a road game against the Eagles since 1965. Can they break that curse this week?
It's a long drought for sure. But this Steelers team is tough and resilient. They find ways to win even when they're not playing their best. So you never count them out.
And there's been some drama surrounding the Eagles' passing game lately, particularly with A.J. Brown's lack of targets. Could this be the week he has a breakout performance?
The Eagles definitely need to get him more involved. He's too talented to be a non-factor in their offense.
And one bold prediction even claims that Brown will get at least 4 targets in the first quarter alone.
Wow, that would be a statement. If they force-feed him the ball early and often, it could be a long day for the Steelers' secondary.
And for the Steelers, the stakes are high in this game. They can clinch a playoff spot with a win or a tie.
So it's a must-win for them. They need to bring their A game if they want to secure that playoff berth.
The Eagles are 5.5-point favorites with an over-under of 43.5. The experts are split on this one. Some are predicting an Eagles win, while others are leaning towards a Steelers upset.
It's another one of those toss-up games where anything can happen. It's going to be a close, hard-fought battle.
All right, next up we've got a matchup featuring two of the most mobile quarterbacks in the league as the New England Patriots travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. Get ready for some scrambling and improvisational plays in this one.
Both of these quarterbacks can make plays with their arms and their legs. It's going to be a challenge for both defenses to contain them.
The Cardinals have been struggling mightily in the red zone lately, but the Patriots' red zone defense hasn't been great either. Could this be the week the Cardinals finally break out of their slump?
It's possible. The Patriots have been giving up a lot of points in the red zone, so the Cardinals might be able to find some success there.
And speaking of the Cardinals, they desperately need to find some offensive rhythm. They've been averaging a measly 15.3 points per game during their three-game losing streak.
They need to get Kyler Murray going again. He's been out of sync lately, and their offense has sputtered as a result. If they can get him back on track, they'll be a much more dangerous team.
All right, here's a bold prediction that adds a little bit of irony to this matchup. Cardinals kicker Chad Ryland is projected to miss a field goal from 45 yards or closer against his former team, the Patriots.
Ouch. That would be a tough one to swallow, especially against his former team. But he has been inconsistent this season, so it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility.
And the Cardinals' playoff hopes are fading fast. A loss here would be a devastating blow.
They need this win to keep their hopes alive.
The Cardinals are 6-point favorites with an over-under of 46.5. The experts are leaning towards the Cardinals' victory, but the Patriots are always a tough opponent, so an upset is definitely within the realm of possibility.
It'll be interesting to see if the Cardinals can get their offense going and pull out the win.
Our final game for this part of the deep dive takes us to Los Angeles, where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, winners of 3 straight games, are facing a tough test against the Chargers.
The Buccaneers are on a roll, but this is their toughest opponent yet. The Chargers have one of the best defenses in the league, and they're always a tough team to beat at home.
Can the Buccaneers keep their winning streak alive against such a formidable opponent?
It's going to be a battle of wills. The Buccaneers are playing with a lot of confidence, but the Chargers are a tough matchup for any team.
And the Chargers are dealing with an injury concern. Justin Herbert has another ankle sprain. If he plays, he'll likely be limited as a runner, which could significantly impact their game plan.
Herbert's mobility is a big part of their offense. If he can't run as effectively, it could limit their options and make it easier for the Buccaneers' defense to contain them.
And speaking of the Buccaneers, they've really found their groove in the running game lately. They've rushed for over 150 yards in each of their last 3 wins that's tied for a franchise record. Can they keep that ground game going against the Chargers?
That's going to be a key to their success. If they can establish the run early and control the clock, it will take the pressure off Tom Brady and keep the Chargers' offense off the field.
And here's a bold prediction that highlights a potential defensive lockdown. Sterling Shepard is projected to be held under 10 receiving yards in this game.
Wow, under 10 yards. That's a bold prediction. But the Chargers do have Derwin James Jr., who's been shutting down slot receivers all season, so it's not entirely out of the realm of possibility.
And the NFC South race is heating up. The Buccaneers are currently leading the Atlanta Falcons by just 1 game. A win here would give them a little bit of breathing room, but a loss would put them right back in a tight race.
It's going to be an exciting finish to the season in the NFC South.
The Chargers are 3-point favorites with an over-under of 45.5. The experts are leaning towards a Chargers victory, but the Buccaneers are a team that's capable of pulling off an upset.
It's going to be a close, hard-fought game between 2 talented teams.
All right, for our final game in this part of the deep dives, we're heading to Seattle, where the Green Bay Packers are taking on the Seattle Seahawks. This is a game with major playoff implications for both teams.
Absolutely. Both teams are fighting for playoff positioning, and a win here would be huge for either team.
Josh Jacobs has been on a tear lately for the Packers, scoring a touchdown in each of his last 3 games. Can he keep that streak alive against a Seahawks defense that's been pretty solid against the run?
Jacobs is a workhorse. He runs hard, and he's tough to bring down. The Seahawks defense will have to be at their best to contain him.
And the Seahawks offensive line is coming off its best performance of the season. Can they build on that momentum against a Packers defense that hasn't been as dominant as they have been in the past?
That's a key matchup to watch in this game. The Seahawks need to protect Geno Smith and give him time to throw. If they can do that, they have a chance to put up some points against this Packers defense.
And here's a bold prediction that plays to the Seahawks' defensive strengths. They're projected to intercept Jordan Love by disguising their coverage.
The Seahawks have a knack for confusing opposing quarterbacks, so it's definitely something to watch out for. And Love has shown some vulnerability against those types of plays.
Exactly. And the playoff implications. Well, the Packers are basically a lock to make the playoffs at this point. But a win for the Seahawks would significantly boost their chances.
A win here would be huge for their playoff hopes.
The Packers are 2.5-point favorites with an over-under of 45.5. The experts are split on this one. Some are predicting a Packers win, while others are leaning towards a Seahawks upset.
It's a tough game to call. Both teams have the talent and the motivation to win. It could go either way.
All right, that's it for this part of our Week 15 NFL predictions deep dive. We'll be back soon to cover the rest of the games and dive into some more bold predictions.
Welcome back to our deep dive. Ready for more Week 15 predictions?
Absolutely. Let's jump right back in with a rematch.
Yeah.
The Chicago Bears are hosting the Minnesota Vikings, and we all remember that first game where Bears QB Caleb Williams really gave the Vikings pass rush a run for their money.
Oh, yeah. Williams was impressive in that game, especially for a rookie. It'll be interesting to see if he can do it again against a Vikings defense that's probably looking for some payback.
The Vikings defense has been giving up a lot of yards recently, so maybe the Bears can take advantage of that. But of course, the Vikings have Justin Jefferson, who can just take over a game at any moment.
Jefferson's one of those players who can just change the game in an instant. He's so dynamic and explosive. The Bears' secondary is going to have a tough time trying to contain him.
And speaking of Jefferson, one bold prediction actually has him scoring multiple touchdowns for the second straight game.
He's never done that before.
2 games in a row. That would be amazing. But, with the way he's been playing, I wouldn't put it past him.
And get this next bold prediction is a bit out there, but it's kind of fun to think about. Vikings linebacker Andrew Van Ginkel is projected to score his 3rd defensive touchdown of the season.
3 defensive touchdowns.
Yeah.
That's insane. I mean, it's incredibly rare for a defensive player to score that many touchdowns in a season.
I know, right? But he's already scored 2, and the Bears have had some turnover issues this year, so maybe it's not as crazy as it sounds. True. And you know what? A defensive touchdown could really swing the momentum in this game.
For sure. And speaking of momentum, this is a huge game for the Vikings in terms of the playoffs. A win or a tie clinches a playoff spot for them.
So they control their destiny, a win here, and they're in, no waiting around to see what happens in other games.
The Vikings are 6-point favorites with an over-under of 43.5. Most experts are picking the Vikings to win this one, but, the Bears could definitely pull off an upset if they can protect Williams and keep Jefferson in check.
It should be a fun game. I'm excited to see how it plays out.
All right, our final game on this part of the deep dive takes us to Las Vegas for a matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the Las Vegas Raiders. And this one has a bit of a revenge game feel to it.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, there's a chance that Desmond Ridder could start at quarterback for the Raiders. He was drafted by the Falcons just a couple years ago, but then was traded to the Cardinals.
Right. And then the Raiders signed him off the Cardinals practice squad.
Exactly. So if he starts, it'll be against his former team. Talk about a chance to prove yourself.
That always adds a little extra spice to a game. Players love to go up against their former teams and show them what they're missing.
For sure. And the Falcons have actually lost 4 straight games, their longest losing streak since 2022. They're looking to turn things around, but it won't be easy against a Raiders team that's also trying to get back on track.
Both teams are struggling right now, so it's really a toss-up. It'll probably come down to which team makes fewer mistakes. Turnovers could be the deciding factor in this one.
And Falcons QB Kirk Cousins has been in a bit of a slump lately. He's thrown a lot of interceptions in the past few weeks.
Yeah, the Raiders' defense has been pretty opportunistic this season, so if they can force Cousins into some bad throws, they could be in good shape.
But, the Falcons do have a pretty strong running game, and the Raiders have had some trouble stopping the run this year.
That's true. Maybe the Falcons will lean heavily on their run game to control the clock and keep Cousins out of trouble.
Okay, here's a bold prediction that kind of plays into the Falcons' run-heavy offense. Raiders linebacker Robert Spillane is projected to lead the entire league in tackles for Week 15.
Whoa. Lead the league. That's a bold statement. But, if the Falcons are running the ball a lot, Spillane will have plenty of opportunities to rack up those tackles.
He could be a tackling machine in this one. And the NFC South implications are still there for the Falcons. Their division title hopes took a hit during that 4-game losing streak, but a win here would put them back in the race.
They need this win if they want to stay in contention.
The Falcons are 4-point favorites with an over-under of 44.5. The experts are split on this one. Some are predicting a Falcons win, while others think the Raiders will pull off the upset.
Another tough one to call. It's going to be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
Okay, let's kick off this last part of the deep dive with the trip back down to the NFC South, where the Buccaneers are looking to keep that win streak going as they head out to L.A. to face the Chargers.
Yeah, 3 wins in a row for the Bucs, but this Chargers matchup is going to be a real test.
Oh, for sure. The Chargers defense, they're no joke. They can make things tough on any quarterback. But here's the thing. The Chargers, they got their own issues right now with Justin Herbert and that ankle.
That ankle, it's been bothering him all season, hasn't it? If he can't move around like he usually does well, that could really play into the Bucs' hands.
And the Bucs have been leaning on that run game lately, putting up some serious yardage.
They can get that going early against the Chargers, control the clock. That'll keep Herbert and that offense on the sidelines.
Okay, ready for a bold prediction. Sterling Shepard. He's projected to be held under 10 receiving yards this game.
Under 10. Wow. That's pretty drastic, isn't it? But the Chargers, they do have Derwin James, and he's been locking down those slot receivers all season.
He has, so it's not impossible, is it? And this game, it has some serious NFC South implications. The Bucs, they're only 1 game ahead of the Falcons right now.
Yeah, a win here would give them some breathing room in that division race, for sure.
The Chargers are 3-point favorites. Over-under is 45.5. Experts are kind of leaning towards the Chargers, but the Bucs, well, they've got that underdog spirit. You can't count them out.
Definitely a tough one to predict.
All right, last game of the deep dive. The Green Bay Packers are taking on the Seattle Seahawks up in Seattle. And this one, well, it has some serious playoff implications for both teams.
Both teams looking to secure their spot? This game's going to be important.
Josh Jacobs, he's been on fire for the Packers. Touchdown in each of his last 3 games. Can he make it 4 against that Seahawks defense? They've been pretty decent against the run so far.
Jacobs, he's a workhorse. He's going to test that Seahawks D-line for sure.
And on the other side of the ball, the Seahawks O-line, they just had their best game of the season. Can they keep that up against a Packers D that hasn't been quite as dominant as they've been in the past?
That's going to be key. Got to protect Geno, give him time to work. If they can do that, they got a shot at putting up some points.
Okay, last bold prediction for the day. Seahawks projected to pick off Jordan Love, and they're going to do it by disguising their coverage.
Love, he's shown he can be fooled by those tricky schemes, and the Seahawks, well, they're known for confusing quarterbacks.
Exactly, and playoff implications. Well, the Packers, they're pretty much a lock for the postseason, but the Seahawks, a win here would be huge for them.
No doubt. Boost their chances considerably.
Packers, they're 2.5-point favorites. The over-under is 45.5. Experts are split, some saying Packers, others Seahawks. It's a toss-up.
It really is going to be a fun one to watch, that's for sure.
And that's it. We've covered every game, talked bold predictions, playoff hopes, the whole 9 yards. So what are your predictions? What games are you looking forward to?
It's going to be another exciting week of NFL action. Can't wait to see how it all plays out.
NFL, always full of surprises. That's what keeps us coming back for more. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week to break it all down.
Until then, enjoy the games.